everybody, and welcome to DC Fine Art. Today we're going to be working on what used to be our live stream for our all seasons painting, but this time, since I am having to juggle between my daughter's summer school and her volleyball practice happens to be on Tuesday until July, then actually I got that time kind of freed up. So what we're going to be doing is doing a recording of the kind of like a live stream where I'm not going to edit out like anything. It's going to be kind of like what a live would be. The only difference is that I don't have two cameras, so it will be only one camera that is focused on the painting. Now I will be telling you guys what colors I'm using, and when I'm mixing or if I'm using a certain color, I'm going to let you know what that is. So I will be telling you what I'm doing in creating this piece. Now I'm just wanting to keeping the momentum going on this, so that way whenever we get to our next one, it's going to be something different. It's going to be a color pencil. So super excited about that. Also, I've been trying to save up my monies. I'm very pinching pennies here, but saving up so that way I can possibly go back into doing the Powerful Pack reviews. Now, as you know, I have told before, I've always paid for all my stuff, so I'm not sponsored by anybody. So therefore, you know, when hard times hit, it's kind of hard to get one of those. And it's not that it's like a whole bunch of money, but it is to me whenever things are going the way they are. So I'm really hoping that for August box, when August comes out with their box, it would be basically buying in July to get the August box. So I'm really hoping and keeping fingers crossed, if anybody could keep their fingers crossed too, that I'm able to get one of those boxes so that way I can do another review of the Powerful Packs. And yeah, I'm just excited about it. I know that you guys like it too. And yeah, pretty much I think that's about it. Like I said, stay to the very end because I will be letting you guys know what we're going to be doing on Friday's video. So a little bit of a spoiler alert gonna happen at the end of this video. So anyways, let me go ahead and turn this around. Let's get to painting this all seasons painting and having some fun. All right, so we're gonna start out by doing just a little bit of the ghost, as I can see, because it needs just a little bit more detail, probably a little bit more darker in the eyes, just a little bit. But then the shadow, I have a nice light bluish color. I kind of want to make those tones just a little bit darker. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my Payne's Gray. Of course, it's my favorite color for darkening, adding more of my light darker tones. And then I'm going to take some of the, maybe a little bit of white. We always use white for a lot of things, so definitely want the white. Now I am going to take my Fine Mist sprayer right here and I'm going to spray that down. And I'm going to make sure too that I have enough, let me get enough water on my brush here. And I'm going to mix in the Payne's Gray with maybe just a touch of the white, just so that way we can get our value that we're wanting, like making it a little bit darker. And then also getting a nice fine round tip brush. So one that's not too big. Otherwise, because we are working in smaller detail here. And usually I spray the canvas, but usually first before I start working on it. But this is actually a board. So it's not a canvas board neither. It's actually a board. So it is super smooth. Let me make sure I'm looking at my shadows right. Probably should have zoomed in a little bit here. I don't want to get in between some of these fingers. And then kind of darken in some of these areas. Let's see here. Maybe some of these areas that have a little bit of a shadow to it. That way it adds a little bit more detail and contour to his hand. Looks like this comes down and probably has like a little bit of a shadow in here. Got a little bit going on in here. It is super noisy outside today. I'm guessing everybody feels like it's summertime. Let's just blare the music real loud. Usually they're motorcycles, though. A lot of motorcycles have those speakers on their motorcycles that are super loud. And so, yeah, if you get a little bit of noise, if you hear it, that's what it is. Promise I'm not having a party over here. Now I'm creating this nice little darker shadow here. And then I'm going to add more shadow in between some of these fingers. And that is not somebody wrecking outside. That is actually a person pulling a trailer. Sounds like he almost ran off the road. And then I'm going to pull this shadow down here in between his arm. And I'm going to run it down to the bottom, because our light source, and that's another good thing that you always want to know, our light source is actually going to come from a sparkler that's over on this other side of the painting. And this is what's going to be glowing, so it's going to be kind of like offset. Now, the sparkler is probably not going to cast a lot of shadow on this, but this is just where my light source is, so that is why I'm making the shadow off to that side too. So now we're gonna do some little shadows, probably coming up from the bottom here. May need to give it another spritz. And then kind of go at it again. Maybe make another one in here. That way we got a little bit of shadow and contour here, like it kind of dips and flows in and out. So that's the way our little spooky ghost here looks. Really do like that. It looks really good. Now we're going to come through and we're going to do the same thing using the same colors, the Payne's Gray and the white mixture. And I'm going to come in here and add some more shadow to this other little ghost. So of course we want some of this darker shadow kind of coming in on these fingers on one side, on the interior side here are these fingers. Not quite for sure. Let's see here. Kind of looks the same as the other one. Kind of has a little bit of a palm. Okay, we're going to come on here on the top of his head and drop this shadow in. Okay. And so our ghost is already starting to change up and look a little different, but he's looking a lot better. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing as the other ghost, and I'm just going to run that shadow all the way down this side here. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now we need to make some textures like up here, so that way our ghost has a little bit of flow to him. Maybe we want to take this and just kind of take that one on down just a little bit more, right through here. That looks pretty good. Ghost looks a little spooky on that one. I don't know if I should have actually kept that line. Let's do this. Let's take that one out. So while it's still wet, is if you see something you don't like, you can always kind of correct it with a wet brush. He's got a whole bunch of ripples, doesn't he? It almost seems a little bit too high. And if you don't catch it and it dries, that's fine. I'll just put a little bit of a white in there. Kind of block that out a little bit. White with the, which I know I want to add a little bit of highlight maybe in and around. Take that one down just a little bit. Maybe just take this one down a little bit. Let's try and do a little bit of editing here. See if we can edit our paintings. There we go. He's got a little bit of texture in him too, huh? It's fine. All right. So I like that. But if I wanted to come straight in with my Payne's Gray, I can, and just add a little bit more to his eyes in case I want to kind of darken those just a little bit. But pretty much it's all I really see for now. Maybe his mouth. Now, whenever we get to the sparkler and we get the sparkler done, which is going to be the very last, then we're going to end up going over this, like I said, and I want to tone it. So I want to give it more of an aged old look. So if there's something up here that looks super bright, like this egg, or maybe some of these birds look a little bit brighter, that's fine, because whenever I tone all of this at once, I'm going to tone everything together. I'm really wanting to kind of dingy and age this into more of an antique looking kind of painting. So it is going to dull things down a little bit. I don't know what that is. Looks like something scratched my, that was weird. So anyways, let's go ahead, and I'm happy with the ghosts the way they are. I know that whenever we tone all this down, those ghosts are going to change colors again. So I'm perfectly fine with that, because everything's going to change color. Let's go ahead and jump over here. I want to start doing the Christmas tree, or at least one Christmas tree if we have time for that, and then the pumpkin. So the Christmas tree is going to be a little bit different because on the reference photo I really did like the way the Christmas trees look. They were more of like kind of like these rope trees or something. It was like this rope and it was like twisted around and around and around as it went down, and then it had the star on top. So they're like a little bit different. They're not like the green Christmas tree that you would normally see, but it's like a different type of Christmas tree, and I really did like it. So I'm going to end up putting down some different colors here. I think it's more of like maybe an unbleached titanium, or possibly even, and I'm using the Liquitex Basics, so it's either going to be the unbleached titanium or the, I don't even know if I can find it. My goodness, all my paints are gone. Parchment, either that or the parchment. I can't find my parchment. I don't know where it went. We may just have to stick with just these two, which is fine. Yeah, let's just stick with it. And I also want to grab some of my natural gray. So we'll stick with unbleached titanium, natural gray. We have our white already, and our paints gray, which we'll use. Excuse me. And as far as the gold, since we got these gold stars that look sparkly up here, I'm gonna use for that. It looks like a bunch of speckles too. So I'm gonna use my Naples yellow, wherever it may be. Naples yellow. And this is gonna be my day that I can't find anything. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, here's my bigger, and maybe I ran out and I got some. Okay, so we're gonna use my Naples yellow. We're gonna do the star first, by the way, too. And I'm gonna use some of my burnt umber. So I got me a new tube of this, yay! And I got me a big one. And so far it's coming out okay. Knock on wood. If it gets chunky again, I'm gonna cry. The white, the burnt umber, and the Naples yellow. And I do see some like yellow oxide, which is this one here. This ought to be fun. So this is what we're going to do first. We are going to spray them down. So I basically have white, Naples yellow, burnt umber, yellow oxide, and that's what I'm going to use for the star. Excuse me. So we're going to take our Naples yellow, and we're going to take a little bit of our white, mix it up, and it's going to create like a really light kind of color. Now this is not, yeah, it's going to be really light. So it's going to be a really light color. And I made sure to spray it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline my star. Just trying to fill it all in is all I'm doing. You're probably thinking this is supposed to be a gold star and you are painting it really super light. I am, but once this dries, we're gonna do speckles because it's supposed to be a sparkling, like glitter, all over this star, like a sparkle. Okay. So we got that in there. I'm not really too worried about my star being perfect by any means, because let me try and take a little bit, clean that edge up just a little bit. There we go. Because the star that was cut out on the reference photo was not really the perfect star anyway. It was kind of off. And that was because this was handmade, a handmade star. So it was like not crisp and cut out perfect around the edges. So that is exactly the way I want it, because I want this to look old and aged and old-timey. I don't want everything to be perfect. It just doesn't feel very comfortable for it to be perfect. I don't know. Then again, if there's anybody out there who was like thinking, okay, maybe you don't like anything to be perfect, but I can't stand it. It's gonna drive me insane not knowing that that star is perfect. It's okay. Just think that that's perfect because that's the way it was intended to be. That is what they had. If a child cut out a star, and even though it's not perfect, maybe that's the way it was supposed to be. So it is perfect. Maybe imperfect is actually perfect. So there we go. So we got our stars. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna dry those so that way we can do the sparkle on them. So I'm gonna take out my hair dryer, and I cannot mute you guys. So maybe I can go through and turn it down for you guys, but hopefully it doesn't bust out your ears. All right, so we got the stars in there. Now I'm gonna start making my dots, my sparkling dots. And I'm gonna go ahead and start out with, well, I don't really want to start out with that. Let's just make some dots using just our plain Naples yellow with no white mixture. These may be too, I may have to get a smaller round brush. Let's get a smaller one. Wet it. Dip it. Now this is probably gonna be really hard for you guys to see, but I am just making dots. That's all I'm doing. I'm just going through and making dots. Random dots everywhere. And yeah, you're gonna have a texture to this too, by the way. Because my dots have like texture. So I'm going through and making my little dots everywhere. And this is just the Naples yellow. So I'm going to make sure that all of this is going to be dotted. Now, if we do not make it through this video, up into the pumpkin because I know this is Tuesday and I have got to go take my daughter to her practice. But if I do not make it to the pumpkin, we'll just continue the pumpkin next week. Okay, and then we're gonna do the same thing over here. So I just got through doing all my little dots with my Naples yellow. You know, I could just do that with the, well, trying to save on paint here, you guys. I wanna have to let it dry and try and have to get more. My paint palette is taken up, so I can't really stick my paint in there. So here we go. Sticking my little dots in there. All right, I think I have enough. All right, that looks good. So now that we got all our little Naples yellow dots all in there, I'm gonna go ahead and dry it again so that way we don't make no smudges. Now that should be dry enough. So now I'm going to come through and we are going to use the yellow oxide and we're going to start just kind of making some dots, maybe in between some of those dots. Now it's going to look pretty close to the color of the Naples yellow, but it's not quite. It's a little bit darker. And we're just gonna randomly put these in here. Try and put them on a spot that maybe the Naples yellow is kind of missing, like a gap in between, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Just kind of space them out. So that looks pretty good. Yeah. All right, I like that. So now we can come over here to the other one and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna make those little dots everywhere. Now, just imagine if you're kind of wondering, what good is this? What good is this gonna do for me in your artwork? Like, what is the benefit here? Well, if you're learning how to make something, you gotta forgive the train here, of course. So let's just say you're trying to make something sparkly and it's gold. Doesn't have to be a star. Maybe it's something else. Maybe you're doing something in your painting that you're wanting to have it look like a sparkle kind of thing. Maybe a sparkly heart, golden sparkly heart. And you just don't know how to make the sparkle. Maybe this can give you a good tip idea to be able to use in your own artwork. So just because I'm doing this and you're not, maybe you don't want to make a Christmas tree, maybe there's something else in your artwork that could help you for. So now that that's in, I'm going to go ahead and dry it so that way we can speed this up. All right, so now that that's dry, we're gonna go ahead and add our another dot to this. So what it's gonna be is we are going to add in our burnt umber. And we're just gonna randomly put in these dots. Just here and there. So we're gonna put in these little random dots. All right, so now we got our brown in there, so I'm gonna do it to the other one. And we're gonna randomly put little dots. All throughout. So far it's looking so good. I like this little gold sparkling star. All right, so now we got our little brown spots in there, burnt umber spots. So you know what we're gonna do next. We're gonna go ahead and dry it. All right, so now comes our last little speckle that we need to do, which is going to be, can you guys guess? It's gonna be the white. And so this white, we're just gonna trickle in here and there. And that is gonna be our little sparkles. Okay, adding those in. All right, I really like that. So that's perfect. So now we're gonna move on to the next one and do the same thing. Let's add in our little sparkles. So who knew that adding something gold and sparkly could just be that easy? Because it wasn't too bad. Sitting at a different angle and trying to get my little dots in there. just right, but it'll be okay. Okay, I like that. So that one's done. So both our little stars are done. And it looks like a little glitter star. So I'm going to go ahead, just to make sure they're dry and they don't get messed up by me touching them, I'm going to go ahead and dry them with a hairdryer. All right, so now that is done, I'm gonna go ahead and do, it looks like I still have enough time to try and do at least one of, or at least partial of the Christmas tree. I'm hoping to get done with the Christmas tree, but I don't know, our time looks pretty close on when I'm supposed to leave. So I got some white. I'm not gonna use the white. We're gonna use the unbleached titanium and some of our gray too. I like the unbleached titanium though. I use gray for some of the shadow. Natural gray and unbleached titanium. Be fine. White is the highlight. So you always want to go with a neutral color because you can always go lighter, you can always go darker. That's usually go with your middle color here. So I'm going to put that in there. It's probably going to have a shade. I got to see what angle these ropes are going at too. I mean, pretty much it looks like it just goes straight around. It's pretty much straight. So we are just going to kind of wrap these. I am leaving a little bit of a gap in there. Should be fine. Trying to go in the direction of the way the rope kind of goes around. It's a little bit, it's not really perfect around the edges here, so I may have to, I will have to come back through and make some of these rope lines kind of disappear. I should say rope lines. I don't want rope lines to disappear, but I want to make like kind of where it kind of bubbles out on the edges here. I don't know. Sometimes whenever I talk to myself and ramble, I feel like sometimes I just say things and I'm like, what did I just say? I'll make that a little bit more even. And it just got out of line. Try and take that. I want it to come down a little further. It doesn't look too bad. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I'm going to take the unbleached titanium. Make sure I take this all the way over. On each side. Okay, so now that we have our rope kind of twisted and spiraled down, I'm going to go ahead and blow dry that. And I'm blowing dry this because I know it's going to be a little bit quicker than letting it dry and going on to the other one. So we're going to try and get this at least one done. All right, so we got that in there. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my unbleached titanium and mix in just a little bit of that gray to kind of tone it down a little bit and make it more of a shadow kind of color. And I'll have to see if I need to tone this down a little bit more or not. It looks pretty good. And I'm just going to put that in between where we have the gaps. Okay, and then I'm going to put it in between, in between, in between, in between, and right in between there. Okay, so now we got our shadow kind of like on the ropes in between. I need to have just a little bit left. I really need to put some like right around this edge here. Here. Okay, that ought to be good. Yep. So I like that. So now we got a little bit of a shadow going on, but we're still gonna have to create some more. I probably should be able to let's do a little bit more of our gray, a little bit more of our unbleached titanium, mix that up, create more of that shadow, because I definitely need to do some little strands, like to show textures to the little twine, like the little rope that's tied around there. So I'm going to take me a even smaller round brush, and I'm going to hope that I got the smaller one. We'll just see. And I just want to make some little details in here. It doesn't have to be every single one, but I definitely want to make a hint of some little lines kind of coming through here, like if it's rope. It is definitely going to be kind of faint. Because we're not working with some really dark shadows yet, or dark enough shadows to add more of that contrast to it. We're working with the little stuff right now. Okay, so we got it here and there. I can see where those are. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but it's just teeny tiny. Okay, and so what I want to do before we move on to the next step, keep this little tiny round brush with me, but I'm going to go ahead and blow dry this. And now what I'm going to do is create a darker shadow. So I'm going to go up to my Payne's Gray now. Hoping I got that wet enough. And I'm just kind of looking to see exactly where the darkest shadow would be. I hope I don't have too wet, it might be too wet on my brush. Yeah. A dark Payne's Gray. It's maybe too, I'm almost wanting to say it might be too big of a round brush to add in that small of a detail. I may have to go a little bit more tinier, like what we use for the little dots. The only reason why I don't really like using this one too often is because you can't really go too long of a straight line. So here we're just kind of making some of that where that rope's going. And we're just going to work our way on up. Because I can see that each and every one of this does have the dark line kind of going in between the rope, and that is what we're going to be doing. Okay. So now we have these little kind of shows a little bit of where the rope is going, like the in-betweens, or it's kind of split apart there. And I need to do it on the bottom too. I know I'd made a little bit on the bottom, but I probably need to kind of make just a little bit of a texture kind of rope look on the bottom. I'll do it here and there. Yeah, I don't know what it looks like from a distance, but I can definitely see up close where I got the little lines, but we are not through yet. So I'm gonna definitely want this to dry again so I can add another layer. Here comes the hairdryer. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is take my, I don't want that brush, hold on. I'm going to take my unbleached titanium, some of that, and I'm going to mix it with my white. And that should end up creating more of a lighter color for like a highlight. And we'll just have to try it out. If it ends up not really looking like a highlight, or it's not bright enough, we can always go with more of a straight white, or maybe even a, yeah, we could even go with a straight white, but we'll just see what it looks like. So just want to kind of put a little bit of highlight on just the rope that's kind of sticking out. So you can see your shadows, you see the darker shadows, but now what you're gonna do is right where that rope is kind of bubbling out, you're gonna add a little highlight to it. Now I may end up having to come back from the way I see and add a little bit more of a shadow to that. But for right now, we're just gonna add in the highlight, which is definitely going to make it pop a little bit more. Remember that when you're working on pretty much anything, it doesn't matter what you're working on, you're wanting it to look more realistic or have it have depth, like has depth. And if you're wanting to achieve that, remember that it's all about your contrast. Your differences between lights and darks. And by the way it looks right now, I am gonna have to add more of a shadow. I've got the really darks in there. The lights are really showing up very good. But that mid-tone like shade that I was trying to do like a shadow, that's the part that's not really, I just didn't get it dark enough and it's not standing out as quite the way I want. But that's okay because we can always go back in and fix that. So that looks pretty good. Definitely is gonna need that shadow built up a little bit more. So we're gonna go ahead and blow dry this and add another layer. All right, so now make sure I get that turned off. Yeah. I'm gonna take my round brush and I'm gonna try and add a shadow to this. So we may end up going with a little bit more of our Payne's Gray, just a little touch of it, and some of our unbleached titanium. And that definitely looks like a shadow. I want to make sure I add enough water to where I can actually get this underneath here. And I'm going to stick this shadow back in. Let's get it in here. And let's keep going. I'm adding the shadow and I'm just kind of bringing it back down where those little lines are, kind of those darker lines, just showing a little bit of texture. Like the rope little lines, like where it's twined around. We'll just see how this looks. And if we need to add another layer to it, we can. Because it is kind of an in-between color here. So now I put a little bit of shadow in there. I'm going to take a little bit of my white and I'm just kind of curious. I just want to add a little bit of white. Just to see where I'm at on my brightness scale here. Ooh, too much water. I have to dry that off. This is just the unbleached titanium. Just kind of putting a little bit of that tone back in, just in case if I went over just a little bit too much with the shadow. I can always put it back in. So that looks pretty good. I just think that adding a little bit of that white back in for the highlights really does look good. Especially if I'm getting it like right here around the middle. And right in there. Maybe just a little bit in there. I'm gonna blow dry this and then I'm gonna add another shadow kind of like around the edges, so that way it kind of gives it a little bit of a contour there. Okay, so how I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna take my Payne's Gray, which is like my darkest color here, and I'm just gonna add a lot of water to it. So what that's gonna do is it's gonna make kind of like a really liquidy, and it is gonna be quite a bit wet here. But what that does, and you gotta make sure it's nice and dry around the edges, or nice and dry before you apply this. It's gonna tone that down. It's kind of like adding a glaze. I'm gonna go over it again. Okay. That looks pretty good. Now, if you're needing to tone it down any more, I would suggest probably just adding another coat. Now I'm going to bring this on down and we are going to tone these edges down. It's thinner when it goes up. Okay, so now we tone down this middle edges. We'll just have to see whenever it dries completely. Some of those areas that are kind of sticking out here and there, you can always go back in and use your brown and kind of fix little lines wherever you need them. I'm just sticking some brown back in there, some of my burnt umber. That would probably have to be a little bit darker than what I'm using. Which could still be fixed. Because I do have burnt umber and the Payne's Gray to make it darker. So I do like that. Take a little bit in here. And I'm just using some of the more of that Payne's Gray, and I'm just trying to kind of wash it around to where I'm not making a straight line, because I did notice that kind of made a little bit of a straight line in there, and I really don't want a straight line. Definitely want to soften that out a little bit. There we go. That looks better. Tenfold better. Now I am running out of time here, you guys, so I'm probably gonna have to wrap it up. Don't really like it. Like, I don't want to wrap it up. I'm having too much fun. All right. And you know, we can always add, you know, more to it if we need to. If we're needing to add more layers to it, or darken anything, or lighten anything, we can definitely go in there and do that. Like just adding just a little bit of this, maybe just here and there, adding a little bit more shadow, just a little bit. Really goes a long way. Well, now we got this really nice look here. This kind of looks like a piece of twine or old twine, just kind of like a rope or something, like a twiney rope, just kind of going around. Like I said, you can always add more layers into it, but I am definitely running short on time. I really wanted to get done with this pumpkin, but it's not looking like it. I can't believe that the only time I had left. I know I'm working off of an hour, but that way you guys are not like stretch out on time. So I will be coming back in next week, and we will be doing the pumpkin alone. This tree will be done, so we'll be working on the pumpkin. Hopefully that will not take up our whole entire time, and then we'll be going on to the turtle. So pumpkin and turtle will be next week, so that'll be good. At least we can get started on the turtle. If it ends up that we're going to close to time on the turtle, we may have to make a part 2 on a turtle, but hopefully we can get those done. This one here I'll have done by the time it comes to our pumpkin. So sorry that I didn't get done with the pumpkin in time, and now you guys can listen to, finally, let's go ahead and turn it around so that way I can reveal what we're going to be doing for Friday. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that video, even though it was kind of like, it's not like a live stream where I can actually talk to you guys and chat with you guys live. I really did enjoy that so much. Plus that, I have multiple cameras on there that I can actually show you guys my palette and everything. So it's been a little bit of a bummer. I know that you guys are on here watching me. I definitely leave a thumbs up. That definitely helps the channel. And then if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because we have other videos that we do come out. And basically it's either shorts on some of the things I've been doing, or like this week. And since if you guys followed me all the way to this end, I have to give you guys a surprise. Just have to. So the surprise is what we're going to be doing for Friday's video. Hopefully I can get it done by Friday. Keep your fingers crossed. But we're going to be working with oil pastel, and I'll just turn it around. I got it right here, and I can show you what I have been working on. So it's a drawing. It's drawn out on here, so it's already transferred and almost ready to start recording on it. But it is going to be, and this is orange. This is like oranges, and it's like an orange drink with an orange slice in it, and it's going to be glass. Pretty cool, pretty summery. I know that on my Patreon, if you guys have not checked out my Patreon, please do. And if you guys are wanting to help out, pitch out, help support this channel, I know I do have my Cash App below that's been on there for quite some time, but if you feel like if you'd rather do it in a different way, you can always go over to my Patreon, and there I've got different tiers that you can actually help be a Patreon for, and you also get bonuses on those. So not only do you get a whole bunch more videos from me showing you how to do things and different mediums, but also there is, like, I think on different tiers, I give postcards to you guys that I make myself. And then I end up giving you guys reference photos. I know there's reference photos that I try and take myself so I can give you something. I know that each and every month we come out with different kinds of ideas. I throw out ideas for the month, something to kind of like think about for the month. This month I went ahead and threw out anything fresh fruit. So fresh fruit is what's going to be for June. And on top of that, we do have more things. I do offer coloring pages for some of the tiers. So there's all kinds of different things on there. And yeah, it's pretty much a whole bunch of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this, like I said, and you got to see that we're going to be doing an oil pastel, and it's going to be a fruit, fresh fruit, a glass, and it just seems so refreshing. Plus that this will be pretty interesting. I never did try oil pastel on an actual canvas board. Yeah, we're going to try it. We're going to try it, and we'll just see how it goes. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, I have the link below for the Patreon, and also the link right here if you guys want the link. And yeah, I'll talk to you, or not talk to you all. This is not a live stream. What's the deal, Deborah? I'll see you all on the next video, guys. Bye.